Today I'm making chicken and dumplings. This is my all-time favorite recipe, so I'm excited about doing this today. If I had only one meal that I could have for the rest of my life, it would be chicken and dumplings. So I'm going to share my recipe with you. First thing is the chicken. Now there's two ways of doing this. One is to have cooked chicken. Right here I have two rotisserie chickens. These are kind of small, so I bought two of them. I'm going to make a little bit bigger of a serving. The other way is to have an uncooked chicken and cook it in your pot, which is going to be my stock. You can do that and cook an uncooked chicken for about 45 minutes to an hour. The reason I don't really like to use an uncooked chicken, you can do that, and I've did that several times. The problem with that is that the flavor from the chicken tends to leave the chicken and go into the stock, and I found that the chicken meat itself in the chicken and dumplings seems to be a little bit less chicken flavor to it, if that makes sense. So what I like to do is take these rotisserie chickens. I'm going to cut off the white meat, which is all that I'm going to use in this recipe is white meat. I'm going to take the chicken off of the rotisserie chicken, what I want, and then I'm going to use both of these in the pot to make my stock. Now the problem with that is the stock is a little bit less flavorful than if you used raw chicken and started it from scratch. But it's easy to add flavor to the pot, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So we'll pick the filming up in a minute. Alright, I got the chicken deboned. I've taken off the white meat that I want. Now what I'm doing is just tearing it into little pieces. I like the looks of it torn rather than cut up in little pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and finish tearing this up. But you can see what I've got over here. I put the rest of the chicken in my pot. I've used 2 quarts of chicken stock, store-bought chicken stock, and then I added 1 quart of water, so I have 3 quarts here. See, this is the easy thing about changing the flavor of this. It's easier to change the flavor of the stock than it is to change the flavor of the chicken. This chicken's already cooked, so I'm going to add it to the dumplings right at the very end of the recipe. Okay, if you want to come on over here, I'll show you what we got here. I'm going to add 1 onion to the stock, and I'm going to add 1 carrot to the stock. Now I've already cleaned the carrot, so what I'll do, I'll go ahead and just cut this up into little pieces just to kind of help it out a little bit. Now this stock, after it's done, we're going to strain it. So any of the little bits and pieces in there, I'm not worried about it because it's all going to come off. So what I'm going to do is just take this onion. Actually, I'll probably just cut the onion in half a little bit just to help it out a little bit of skin hanging on there. Put that in there. I'll go ahead and leave that there for a minute. Now the herbs we got here, what I like about this, I bought this at the grocery store, and most grocery stores are selling this now, where you can get a combination of rosemary, thyme, and sage. I like this because I don't have to buy a whole container for just 1 herb, which I can't wait till spring gets here because I'll be growing all this myself. Now what I want is about 6 sprigs of thyme, and I would say that's about 1. Now I'm going to go with about 5 sprigs. This is about 5 sprigs. That's pretty good right there. Because these are short, usually they're a little bit longer than this. So I'm going to throw those in there. Once again, I'm not worrying about the stems or anything. All this is going to be strained. Now what I like about this is I get this here, this sage. I don't use sage too often, and I probably wouldn't have bought this, but the fact it comes with this, and also the carrots. I needed 1 carrot, so I had to buy a whole bag of carrots. So what I've got here, I've got sage and I've got carrots. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna bake these carrots with sage and butter and brown sugar, which is a very good combination. This tastes great together. Carrots and sage just go together. Those are wonderful. So right now we've got this cooking over here. We're going to reduce the heat. It's come to a boil. I'm going to turn it down to low. Let this simmer for 45 minutes. And while this is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start on my dumplings. Alright, I'm mixing my batter up now for the dumplings. What I did, I put 6 eggs in a bowl and I've whipped them with a fork. So what I'm going to do is use equal amounts of cups of flour per egg. Since I've got 6 eggs, I'm going to use 6 cups of flour. Now, a lot of dumpling recipes just use water. And I've tried making dumplings with just water and flour, and it works. Not bad, but using eggs makes the dumplings so much more flavorful. I really like them a lot better this way. And if you've made chicken and dumplings in the past and you use just basically water and flour to make your dough mixture, I want to encourage you to try this with the eggs instead. It really makes an egg batter, which is so much nicer. The only other thing I'm going to add to this, I'm going to add half a cup of milk. So after I add that, I'll get it all mixed up, and once it becomes dough, then we're ready to roll it out. About done. It's a little bit stiff. It's a little bit too dry. So if you find that, just a little bit more splash of milk. And you're going to finish mixing this by hand. Once I get this finished, I'm going to put it over on the dough board. So keep that in mind. If it's just a little bit too stiff, a little bit more milk. It's almost there. We'll transfer it to the dough board. Okay, I got my dough just about to the consistency I like it. Once again, if it's a little stiff, always add a little bit more milk to it, and to where it's pretty dry. There's no film around here. It's not too dry. It's not too wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tear this into about 4 to 6 pieces that are about equal. I tore it in the middle. And what I'm going to do with each of these, I'm going to run it through my little pasta roller here. Now I could hand roll these with a roller, and that would certainly work. That's the way I used to make dumplings, was I used to roll them out by hand. The problem with rolling out by hand is you have inconsistent thicknesses on the dumplings. When I use a roller here, a pasta roller, this is very nice. Handle comes off real easy. It comes off. The only thing I have to do, I have to have the dishwasher door open in order to mount this here. So it's very simple. Just the U-clamp hooks on, handle goes right in, and all you have to do is just roll it. It's got a dial here. You start out thick and you get thinner and thinner, and whatever dumpling thickness you want, you just roll them all out like that. So I'm going to start. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on this. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the dumplings, and I'm going to start rolling them through here, and then we'll pick it back up. Okay, I got the first batch rolled out here. You can see it comes out all the same, which this is very nice. Now what I got here, this is my little trick that I came up with. One of the problems with chicken and dumplings, in fact this is probably about the biggest problem, is when you roll out dumplings, it's very slow and time consuming, and when you're dropping them into the stock, the first ones cook longer than the last ones that go in. And as a result, you have some that are overcooked, some that are undercooked. I've eaten dumplings in restaurants, and I've had ones that were very doughy, which meant those went in at the last. You have other ones that are mushy, meaning those went in first. So this is my little trick on how to put all of them in at the same time. I'm going to lay my dumplings out on sheets of wax paper, and I'm going to keep layer them on top of each other. When I'm done here, I'm probably going to have about 7 or 8 sheets of wax paper with dumplings laid out on them. And then that way I can take a whole sheet, throw it in all at once, all my dumplings go in at the same time. So what I'm going to do here, since this is longer I'm just going to cut this into a couple small sections. Now this is irregular. I can leave that edge on, or if I want to be really neat about it, I can take the little edge off to make it a little bit nicer and neater, and then just re-roll that dough. To me, it's not a big deal on dumplings about how wide or how narrow they are. It makes no difference. The main thing is the thickness. I'm just going to go right down the middle, and then I'm going to just do some motions sideways like this. That's about the size that I want. And once again, they can be thicker or thinner than each other. And then I'm just going to take these, I'm going to lay them out on the wax paper. You can see dumplings are not the easiest recipe to make. It's a little bit slow and time consuming, so I don't do this too often, but when I do this, I don't cut corners on it. I like to make a lot of dumplings, and this is why I like this little roller. This is so much nicer than having to use a hand roller and roll all this out. I don't remember what that cost, but it was something like $20 or $25. It wasn't much. When I get to the ends here, all I do is just improvise. Just same thing. I'll cut the edges of those off, and I'll just cut. Once again, it doesn't matter too much to me if a few of them are a little bit irregular shape. That's fine. If it did matter, I'd keep them all the same, but it doesn't. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'll finish with the rest of this, and then we'll pick the filming back up when I'm close to being done with all this. Okay, we're down to the final step on cutting the dumplings. I've got 7 sheets so far. Actually, I'll finish this up in a second. I decided to go ahead and trim all the edges on them. That's what this pile here is. I did want them to all have the same edges, but come on over here. The stock just finished. It's been cooking for 45 minutes, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and I'm going to strain it into my bowl here. Now you can see I got a strainer, and what I'm using here is cheesecloth. You can get this at any grocery store, very cheap, and one sheet goes quite a ways. I just got a little bit of that cut off. That's going to help catch every little piece out of here. I don't want any of the debris, the chicken debris, the thyme, the carrots, the onions, nothing, none of that's going to be in there, only the flavor. So I'm getting ready to strain it into here, and then I'm going to put it right back into the same pot after I've strained it and disposed of everything else that's in there. Okay, I've brought the stock back to a boil again. We're getting ready to start adding dumplings. One other little trick to add a little bit more flavor, I've got 3 chicken bouillon cubes, and I just kind of cut them up to help them dissolve a little bit. We're going to go ahead and throw those in there. Get all the little debris there. I got a 1/4 cup of cream. I'm going to add this right at the very end. And then here I've made a little bit of a roux paste. This is 2 tablespoons of melted butter and 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to use this right at the very end to thicken it up a little bit. So right now I'm going to start putting my dumplings in. I've got them on sheets, and this is just so much easier of being able to just dump them all in. All at the same time. No overcooked dumplings, no undercooked dumplings. They're all just going right in there together. Yeah, we got a couple hanging on there. What I'm doing is just giving it just one little quick stir after each sheet. Once I get all these in here, I'm going to cook this for 15 to 17 minutes. I found that to be just about the perfect timing for cooking dumplings. I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit. I want it to continue to boil, but I want it to be a slow boil, not a very hard boil. So I'm going to leave it on medium high, and once I see it start to boil again, I'll drop it down to about medium. And I'm going to start the clock as soon as I get the last ones in. Okay, I got the dumplings cooking. They're looking fine. You can put the camera in there just to kind of see what they look like. Very rich stock. Wonderful egg dumplings. Over here, I'm melting 2 tablespoons of butter. I've got a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And I'm taking the rest of my carrots, and I'll cut 2 and 3 at a time. I'm going to just finish cutting these up, all about the same thickness. I've got probably about 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch thickness, somewhere in between there. I'll finish cutting this up. I'm going to cut the sage up into little pieces, and then mix it all together and put this in the oven. Going to cook it for 375 degrees. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, I've got brown sugar and butter melted. I've stirred these. I got it pretty well coated. I cut up the sage. So I'm just going to kind of sprinkle that all over that. Stir it up a little bit here. Give it another stir, and then I'm going to put this in the oven. I'll periodically stir this. Pull this out and stir it. But that's about what we want. Everything is coated with brown sugar, butter, and sage. So I'll put this in the oven. I should have put that in a little earlier. Right now we're 5 minutes away from being done. Our chicken, which was already cooked, all it needs to do is just be heated. So it's time to add the chicken. Now once again, if you like dark meat, you can add dark meat to this. You could use the whole chicken, one chicken, with the white and the dark meat. But because I just used the white meat, I added a second one to it. And right now all that chicken has just got straight chicken flavor to it. None of it has left and went into the stock. So that's why I like doing the chicken with a pre-cooked chicken, putting it in right at the last minute. I'll go ahead and put my 1/4 cup of cream in. And then I'm going to evaluate this during the next couple minutes of whether I want to thicken it more or less. And right now I want to add a little bit of the roux. I'm not going to put it all in because I don't want to overdo it. I'm putting just a little bit in. I'll stir this up, and in about a minute I'll recheck it. Okay, you can bring the camera over here. I've had these cooking for a few minutes in the oven. I like the looks of them so far. What I'm going to do, now that they're pretty much cooked, I'm going to put them on broil. And I'm going to keep an eye on them so they don't burn. I want that brown sugar to caramelize. Now let's check out the dumplings. They've been going for 17 minutes now. They're just about the consistency I like. I did use the roux that I made. I wanted to thicken it up just a little bit. Now the way you tell is to simply sample one. So let's throw this on a plate. Take my spoon. Actually, I'm going to take my fingers. Very good. It could go another minute or two. The best way to sample a dumpling is just to simply try it. You can bite it, you can look at it and see if it needs to be cooked any more inside. This could go for a couple more minutes because I made these just a little bit thicker than I usually make them. So let's cook them about 2 more minutes. Okay, let's get the carrots out of the oven. See what we got. These have been on broil for about 10 minutes with about 10 minutes of cooking. That's a total of about 20 minutes cook time. I think they look pretty good. Yeah. You got all that caramelization, the brown sugar. You can see all the bits of sage I'm telling you, sage works real well with carrots. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this on my plate. We'll do about half and half. I'll do some carrots, and then let's see how the dumplings are. Dumplings, I made them just a little bit thicker than I usually do. I had the roller setting a little bit wider, so they ended up taking about 18 to 19 minutes to cook. Once again, this is not an exact science. You just sometimes just have to take a bite and check it out and see how it is. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to sample this right now. That's our finished product. Now I could put salt and pepper on this, but I'm just going to dig in. Ooh, that's hot. Let me get a piece of chicken and a piece of dumpling. Let's see how it is. Mmm. Very, very good. I love the heavy stock flavor. Everything we added to that. Mmm. Wonderful chicken and dumplings. Let's try the carrots. What a combination. Oh, I gotta keep eating this. Well, right now we're finished. You can see how I made them. So I want to encourage you, go ahead and try this yourself. Make this chicken and dumpling recipe. I guarantee you'll like it. If you like dumplings half as much as I do, you're going to love this recipe.